Can you imagine? Like, you can go rent a house on an island and then just stay there for 4 weeks. And you still have a week of vacation left. Welcome back, travel fans. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides. On this week's Sunday Sofatime, I'm going to tell you how I can manage to travel so much. This is a question that people ask me quite a bit. They write it in the comments here on YouTube, they write me on Facebook. They say things like, gosh, I want your life, you're always traveling, or how can you afford to travel so much, or my gosh, are you ever at home? And here's the answer to that question. Or let's see, the answer to the question, how can you travel so much, is very simple. I don't. I really, really don't. But I'm going to give you some tips in a little bit. But before I get into that, I just want to say that I really don't travel that much. I may travel more than the average, like, American family with kids, and there's reason for that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I mean, what is it now? It's May now, so we've got January, February, March, April, May. Like, almost half of the year is over. And this year, where have I been this year? We went to London for 4 days, and that was part of a work trip from my real life job. And we did then a cruise. That's not, to me, that doesn't seem like an excessive amount of traveling. Am I wrong? Is that like, there are other small things that happen in between, like we got to go to Efteling, but Efteling is like an amusement park that, I can drive to. So I don't consider, if I'm just driving to an amusement park, I don't consider that like a trip, like traveling. And after after the cruise, we stayed in Miami for a few days, but that was all part of one trip. And before the cruise, we went to Disneyland for 2 nights or 3 nights. And I'm not trying to make it sound like it's less, but that was all one trip. You know what I mean? It's not like I took a trip to London, and then I took a separate trip to Disneyland, and then I took a separate trip to a cruise, and then I took a separate trip to Miami. It's all kind of connected, right? So if you have the impression that I'm traveling all the time, it's because I try to make the most content out of the trips that I get to do. And so if that impression is coming through to you, then I guess I'm doing something right, because I think that's what makes it kind of fun to watch, is that there's just always something new, and that you can look forward to the new things coming. And by the way, speaking of looking forward, last week, during the week, I uploaded 2 videos, one from my friend Dino, and one which was, what was it again? Oh, from the Coco-themed restaurant at Disneyland Paris. And if you watch that video until the end, I made a little preview of some of the videos that are coming up. So go check that out when you're done with this. What else did I want to say? There was something else that I didn't want to forget. Oh yeah, this shirt. People ask me all the time why I'm wearing a beer shirt, but it's not a beer shirt. These are rockets. I bought this at when we visited Kennedy Space Center in Florida and Cape Canaveral. So that's not beer, but I understand why people think that it is. It's rockets. Okay, I have made a video with these tips in the past, but I'm just going to sort of update it and go through some things again, some tricks and some advantages that I have that help me travel perhaps more than the average person. The biggest thing is, and I kind of mentioned it already, I have no kids. And having kids is a wonderful thing, and I'm very happy to everybody who helps populate this wonderful world of ours. And for a long time, I wanted to have kids. I wanted to be a dad. And Marcus and I, we looked into ways that we could make it happen. And then eventually we just decided, no, it's kind of too late, and let's not do it. And now I'm kind of happy that it didn't work out. And like I said, I worked with kids for several years, and I've got nieces and a nephew, and so that's all good. But having kids will seriously reduce your ability to travel for a couple of reasons. One is just because you have to pay for more people, And, the older they get, the more they cost. When you've got younger kids, a lot of times they cost less, or sometimes you can get them into, onto cruises or into hotel rooms or into restaurants and stuff for free. But the older they get, the more they cost. So that's a kid factor. And another major kid factor is then it totally limits when you can go on longer trips, because the kids are in school and you can't always take the kids out of school unless you've got a really cool school. But I think most of them are very strict about not taking the kids out of school when it's not, like winter vacation or summer vacation and stuff like that. And so traveling at those times is just automatically going to be more expensive. And because Marcus and I are not limited to those times, we have, like an almost unlimited ability to pick out what we want to do and then go look for the cheapest or the most inexpensive time to do it. And that just helps us so much. So that is, I want to say it's, a piece of advice I can give you. If you want to travel a lot, then don't have kids. Sorry, it's just kind of like that. Or, if you have a job where you just make tons of money, then I guess that doesn't really matter, because then, having a lot of money will help you travel as well. So, there's another piece of advice. If you want to travel a lot, have tons of money. That will make it a lot easier. I don't have tons of money, so I have to come up with these other tricks and tips. Another thing I can tell you, another reason that I can travel as much as I do is because I live in Germany. I live in a European country, Germany, and the vacation allowances that we get here is just so much different than in the United States. And I keep referencing the United States because that's where I lived the first 24 years of my life, and I know that a lot of you are in the United States. So here in Germany, when you start a job, you automatically get, if you have a year contract, 5 weeks of vacation. 5 weeks. So, that's 5 weeks, and then the longer you work, the more days you accumulate. And also at my job, not only do I get those weeks of vacation, but because I also work on the weekends sometime, and I work later hours and get overtime and things like that, I can roll that over into more days off. So that's an advantage that's something I really take advantage of, and that is a reason why I can also travel as much as I do. So there's another piece of advice. Don't live in the United States. Live someplace where you get a lot of vacation. And I think, people ask, why do Germans get so much vacation? And I think it's because, it really helps you stay motivated in your job when you can take that much time off. And you know what? Some people literally take like 4 weeks at a time off. Can you imagine? Like, you can go rent a house on an island and then just stay there for 4 weeks. And you still have a week of vacation left. That sounds nice. Maybe we should do that sometime. Any suggestions as to where I could do that or where I should do that? Maybe we should do it in Orlando. Just take a month off and rent a house in Orlando. And then do like a cruise, and then do Disney and Universal, and do like everything there is to see in Orlando. That'd be cool. Thoughts? All right, what is some other advice that I have? Well, I don't know if this really counts as advice that will help you travel more, but it's just something that I always do, and that is I never go on a vacation I can't afford. I always pay for everything, like, with cash, basically. Does that make sense? So, I was watching one of the latest videos from Sea Cruisers, and she was talking about how she puts like down payments on cruises and then pays like, $20 every month until the cruise in 2 years or whatever, which I think is a really clever idea. I never do that. I figure out what I want to do, and I figure out if I can afford it, and then I pay for it. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Does that help me travel more? I think, of course, if I had more money, then I could afford more trips and afford to do more things and more luxurious things while we're traveling. But I think if you travel outside of your budget, ultimately, that's going to lead to you probably being able to travel less, just because that debt is going to catch up with you, and that's not fun. So try to stay within your budget. And because like I said, I only like find out what I want to do, find out how much it costs, see, can I afford it right now? Yes, I can. There, take the money, and then I do it. I'm not really one to give you any advice about the best way to budget for travel, because that's just kind of how I do it. But go over and watch that video from Amy at Sea Cruisers and tell her I said hi. I don't know. I think those are the best pieces of advice I can give you. Oh, well, another thing, sorry, backing up. Another thing is, Marcus and I don't own a house. We rent. So we don't have those unexpected expenses. Recently our dishwasher broke, and so we don't have to pay for a new one because we're renting this condo, or however you would refer to it in American English. And so, I know recently some friends of mine, their kitchen flooded, and and so they had to replace all the countertops and some of the floor, and that was just a huge unexpected expense. And we don't have those because we don't have to repair anything in here if it breaks. And another thing is we don't have a car. And a car is another thing that just sucks money out of your wallet, out of your bank account. And also another thing that will give you all sorts of unexpected expenses that will take away from the money and the motivation you have to travel, I guess. So that's another, I wish I had thought of that earlier in the video. Another thing I can tell you that helps me is we rent, and we don't have a car. We don't need a car. That's one of the awesome things about living in a city like Hamburg, or where we live. But living in a city like New York or Chicago that also has a great public transportation system, I think you could probably avoid having a car there as well. Those are my tips, and now I get to the part of the video where I look at the comments from last week's Sunday story time and talk about some of them. Let's see. Last week's video, I talked about some of sort of the annoying things that I witnessed on our cruise on the Epic. No, not the Epic, the Escape. And I asked you guys what you thought, if I was overreacting, or what your opinion was about these people. And so many of you wrote to give your 2 cents about it, and I wanted to go through some of them here. Tamara Kempel says, I think people in general are just getting more and more impatient and just plain old rude. I totally agree with you. I think there are many reasons why, but in general, I think that people are spoiled with the instant gratification of having everything at our fingertips now, and it's turning society into a bunch of whiny babies. Very, very well observed. Okay, rant over. But all that to say that vacation should be a time when you just let loose and enjoy yourself. That is also true. Not a time to be arguing with managers or being rude to the people who are serving you. Ugh. And I totally agree about the speakers. We actually kicked a guy out of our bar for doing exactly what you described. Good on you. The thing with the speakers is something that I realize really bothers me because, like I said in that video, if you are bringing your speaker someplace where other people are around and they can hear it, you are forcing them to listen to your music, and that is rude. And somebody else, I don't think I can find it quickly enough, somebody else said they agree with everything I said in the video except for the speakers, that she thinks it's okay to bring speakers and she wants to listen to music. And I say, okay, you can listen to music, and there's another way that you can do it where you don't have to bother anybody else. It's called headphones. Yes, why can't you listen to your headphones at the beach? I mean, of course, like if you want more people to listen to your music, like if you're coming with a group of people, then of course that's different. But then maybe don't go to the beach, or don't go to the pool at the hotel. If you want to listen to your own music, then stay home and have a backyard barbecue. Sorry, rant over. The next comment I wanted to talk about is from somebody called One Great Chef 123. This comment was posted 3 days ago, It says, Morgan, this summer I will be going on a cruise to the British Isles with my mom. If everything goes as planned, I will make it to my 50th country on this trip. Not bad. While I feel like I am a pretty seasoned traveler, there is still something I can't get over that makes me feel like an amateur. I would say about 2 to 3 weeks before a trip, I get really anxious and nervous that something is going to go wrong that would lead me to cancel my trip. Lost my place here. Now, I get trip insurance, and I know that I could always book the trip the next year, but either one of those things are a consolation. I just see it as putting myself 1 year back in my travels. Do you get this feeling before a trip as well? And have you ever had a trip cancel on you? If so, how did you handle it? Well, let me answer your question, One Great Chef, or your questions. Do I ever get this feeling before a trip? No, I don't usually get anxious before a trip. I usually just get really excited. What makes me anxious is being away from work for so long and being away from Chile for so long. There's one thing that has been causing me a little bit of stress lately, and that is I feel like I don't really have the time to plan as much as I did in the past. And so sometimes before we leave, I start thinking, shoot, what are we gonna do on the cruise? I was like, what are we gonna do in Jamaica? I haven't even looked yet. And so that causes me a little bit of stress, but it's nothing that I would think I better cancel this and do it another time. And then to answer your question, have you ever had a trip cancel on you? No, I don't think so. I don't think I've ever canceled a trip. We got kind of close to canceling our transatlantic cruise on the Epic because Marcus's dad died. But then the trip, and I think only one of us had trip insurance for that trip, and so we realized we couldn't cancel it anyways. And then it managed to all work out very well, and it was actually really, really good for Marcus that we still went because it was a good way to get sort of over that first period of grieving and everything. I can't tell you how we handled it. We looked and saw if we could cancel it. We saw that only one of us could cancel it. We looked at how much money we were going to lose, and then we just decided, all right, well, then we're going to do it anyways. So that was an answer to your question, One Great Chef 123, and I'm going to scroll up here because there's something else I want to talk about. The whole one of the things that a lot of people brought up in their comments about the video from last week of these people acting sort of outrageous on the ship is this sort of sense of entitlement. And that Tamara's comment that I read before, people have the feeling that they need to get everything they want immediately, like that immediate gratification, or they become rude, and that it's a trend in society. And I'm sorry, One Great Chef, but I'm going to call you out here because you did exactly that. That comment that you wrote, which I just read and which I just answered, that was 3 days ago. And yesterday, so 2 days later, you wrote another comment saying, I guess Morgan doesn't respond to questions anymore. Really? That's the video for today. Thanks for coming. Stay tuned. There's going to be shopping from Disney videos coming up. There's going to be the cruise videos are going to be starting very soon in just a couple of weeks. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Stick around if you're really not into the Disney videos. Special thanks to everyone for coming over. And the VIPs over here. I really hope that I've got everybody's name in there now. That has been causing me stress that somehow I always manage when I try to put a new name in and then everything gets moved around and then I have to type them all in again and then some people's names get left out and I feel so bad. So I'm sorry if I've missed your name in some of these things for the VIPs over at patreon.com/veryunofficial. Thanks again. See you soon.